There's a new poll out today. It shows Trump's approval rating is quite significantly down now on Inauguration Day, notably amongst young men who turned out in massive numbers to vote for him, notably because of concerns about the economy. Plus, the stock market is, I wouldn't say tanking, but it's certainly taken a big hammering in the last week or so. He's got to be careful, Trump.
All right, folks, brace yourselves. But there was a moment on the most recent episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored where one of Morgan's MAGA guests was so flagrantly dishonest in her cultish defense of Trump and her attacks on President Biden that even the notoriously Trump sycophantic Piers Morgan himself felt the need to intervene and call it out to her face. And we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we've got several clips to look at from the most recent episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored. As you know, Morgan presents himself, he claims to be, I should say, a nonpartisan, principled journalist, right? He tells it like it is. He calls it like it is. He calls balls and strikes, right? Except, of course, in practice, we know he grades Donald Trump on a curve, and it might be due to their long-standing personal friendship. It could be because he believes that is in his financial best interest, right, to own the libs, right? It's very monetizable. But every now and then you get a moment where even Piers Morgan, who grades Trump and MAGA on a curve, will call out one of his MAGA guests when they reach a certain level of ridiculousness. And that happened here. Okay, we're going to play the clip. We're going to start with Joe Walsh, a former Republican congressman turned never Trump critic, where he makes a claim about Donald Trump's current administration. And then we'll play the MAGA response, and then we'll play Piers intervening.
We talk, and last thing I'll say, Piers, we talk about the economy. By all indicators, Trump was given the strongest economic recovery since COVID. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. I don't know what kind of omelet he's making. We talk about the tariff thing. Today's Monday. Are tariffs on? Are they off? I think the chaos economically of the first 7 weeks, Trump and not knowing what he's doing with his tariffs, I think have pissed off and confused everybody and has begun to damage the economy he was given.
Okay.
Fantastic point. We've been making this case here at Pondering Politics, which is Trump's economic stewardship has been so terrible that even MAGA Fox News hosts have been publicly panicking in the past week or so about a crashing stock market, skyrocketing inflation, low consumer confidence, signs of an increasingly probable recession on Donald Trump's watch, right? They understand that Trump and the Republican Party could be politically punished as a consequence of it. So even though they are ideologically devoted to this man, they want him to succeed and are rational enough to recognize that many of his economic plans will actually crater the economy, and voters might punish him and the party in the next election, perhaps the midterms. Okay. So again, all well said by Joe Walsh, and we'll go back and do a retrospective about the Biden economy during this, but we'll get to the next clip in which conservative commentator Emily Austin jumps in, tries to rush to Trump's defense. Oh, God, Emperor Trump is so perfect. It's just the problem was he inherited such a shitty economy from the heathen communist Marxist tyrant dictator Joe Biden.
And Joe, I just want to go off of what you said about the economy, because the truth is we're not coming off of the best economy since COVID or whatever you wanted to call it. But in fact, we're still facing the consequences of what Joe Biden did from his first day in office as president. And now I don't want to repeat the repetitive rhetoric of, you know, it's Biden's fault, because Trump is in the process of fixing it. But the truth is, because of his actions, and the prime example is cutting off the pipeline in Canada, the oil pipeline, and skyrocketing oil prices, which then inevitably leads to every single price skyrocketing in the United States. We're still coming off of that. We're still coming off of consumers' lack of confidence. Under Joe Biden, there were two what could possibly lead to world wars that broke out under America's weak leadership, that now consumers are spending very conservatively because we don't know what the trajectory looks like. Now under Trump, we're gaining our confidence back, but we are coming off of the worst economy because of Joe Biden. Now Trump doesn't have this magical wand that within the first 50 days of office he can fix it, but he's implementing the right policies on getting us on the path to fix it.
So again, a lot of stupidity and dishonesty from a predictably stupid and dishonest MAGA commentator. Number one, Donald Trump repeatedly on the campaign trail said he had a magic wand. He said he could snap his fingers and end inflation on day one, that he could reduce the cost of living cost of groceries, cost of gas. He could end it on day one. He repeatedly campaigned on it. We have the clips. You're just objectively wrong. Now, Emily Austin could be so stupid as to deny reality, or perhaps she'd say, well, he was exaggerating. Well, it doesn't matter because Trump made the claim. He made that commitment when, canvassing and, asking people for their votes. So he set the standard, and we are perfectly entitled to judge him by the standard he created for himself. And he failed, objectively so. And there's nothing that any MAGA conservative can say to contradict that. Number one. Number two, the standard when Biden was in power was that anything bad that happened under President Biden's watch or on his watch was his fault, and therefore he should be held morally and politically culpable for it. And therefore we have every right to apply that same standard for Trump, no matter how much it hurts your feelings, that we don't grade him on a curve like you. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Number two. But number three, a couple of other things. The Keystone XL pipeline that President Biden shut down was inoperable at the time it was shut down. Energy production under President Biden reached heights it never achieved under Trump. We were actually producing more energy, both in terms of not just green and renewable energy, but also oil and fracking and other things as well, than we ever were under Donald Trump. So this idea that we were no longer energy independent or particularly robustly energy productive under Biden is just not true. And again, the pipeline that he canceled wasn't productive in producing oil coming into the United States in the first place. Number three. Number four, again, this idea that, it's because Americans are feeling more confidence now than they ever have. It's not reflected in the polls. Donald Trump is underwater, not just in terms of his approval rating, but also in terms of his management of the economy. He's actually underwater. It used to be one of his strongest suits, at least with respect to polls and perception. And now he's underwater on it because people are not happy that he's not living up to his promises, his commitments. So again, basically everything she said there was wrong, but you tend to expect that, again, from a diehard MAGA Republican. And so this is where Piers Morgan starts to step in.
Going to fix itself overnight, but we are coming off of the worst economy.
Well, I think, look, I would say on that, it wasn't the worst economy. Look, America's economy has actually outperformed pretty much everybody else's since the pandemic ended. So it's all a question of degree. I mean, compared to the UK's economy, America's been on fire the last few years. However, Trump has been persistent in saying it could have been doing a lot better, and now it's incumbent on him to actually prove that. Let me bring in Brianna, who's been waiting.
So, again, I love it. I mean, do you recognize how dishonest you have to be for someone as partisan as Piers Morgan in favor of Trump to say something like that? Basically, in so many words, to vindicate, President Biden in the sense like, no, it really wasn't that bad. And he's right in the sense that America's economy and their economic recovery from COVID was greater than anywhere else in the world compared to even other advanced economies, other G7 economies, including China, including the European Union and its constituent countries, including Great Britain. We managed inflation and had a soft landing without recession, which is something that, quite frankly, again, that people like Emily Austin and other MAGA Republicans simply won't acknowledge because they're desperate to do anything to say, okay, my God, the economy must be in the toilet because that's why Donald Trump is in this mess. Well, no. Again, by most macroeconomic indicators, the fact of the matter is the Biden economy was pretty good, and we'll come back to that. But while she was talking, it occurred to me, I remembered something else about this episode as well, which is that Piers Morgan finally addressed the elephant in the room with respect to Trump's approval and popularity, and that he acknowledged the reality that Trump is not particularly popular.
Himself has tweeted out Latinx. Your people can check it right now. Fact, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, before we go to the others, the thing that would slightly concern me if I was a pro-Trumper American would be there's a new poll out today. It shows Trump's approval rating is quite significantly down now on Inauguration Day, notably amongst young men who turned out in massive numbers to vote for him, notably because of concerns about the economy. Plus, the stock market is, I wouldn't say tanking, but it's certainly taken a big hammering in the last week or so. He's got to be careful, Trump. It's all very well saying, look, there's going to be some pain, but
he actually promised there would be no pain on the campaign trail. And again, I just got to say, it says something that even Piers Morgan is fine. I mean, because Piers Morgan has been saying, quite frankly, for weeks longer than expected, that Trump is, a popular figure. Again, Trump won the popular vote by a plurality, meaning more people voted against him than voted for him, number one. Number two, he has had the shortest honeymoon period of any modern president. Number three, the honeymoon itself was not particularly impressive, right? Like the best he could crack was like the low 50s, which is substantially lower than Presidents Obama, Bush, including President Biden as well, President Clinton. Donald Trump is the least popular modern president, rivaled only by himself in his first term. And it's gotten so bad that even Piers Morgan is publicly acknowledging that, which will no doubt piss off Donald Trump and MAGA loyalists when they see and hear these things. But again, I just want to point out that, and we discussed it all while President Biden was in office, and I don't want to spend too much time relitigating the past, but Donald Trump inherited a strong economy. He did. The macroeconomic indicators of the Biden economy were very good, especially when you consider the global pandemic. They actually navigated a soft landing without hitting a recession. There was a recession under Trump because of COVID. Looks like there may very well be a recession under Trump. Now Biden had no recession. The macroeconomic indicators were really, really good, all things considered. And as I pointed out, and as others have pointed out, it's kind of deja vu all over again, which is the problem isn't just that Republicans are rewriting history. It's also that they feel like they have to. The party seems to realize the more the public knows about the facts, the worse it will be for GOP officials and candidates. And with 2025 underway amid talks of a possible recession, the pattern is holding. Trump inherited another healthy economy, which he's again putting in jeopardy, right? Stepping back, it's worth appreciating the recent pattern of events. In 2017, Trump inherited a healthy economy from a Democratic president and falsely told the public, I inherited a mess. And in 2021, Trump bequeathed an actual mess for his Democratic successor and falsely told the public the conditions were perfect. So again, think about that. President Obama passes off a pretty good economy to Donald Trump. Donald Trump tanks it within 4 years. A Democratic president, President Biden, steps in, cleans up the mess, passes off a recovered economy, a healthy economy, a good economy to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump seems to be on trajectory to drive it into the ground once again. And that's the sort of thing that Piers Morgan is talking about. So again, folks, pretty devastating that Donald Trump's position is so precarious that even Piers Morgan, of all people, is finally publicly calling it out. And one of his MAGA guests is so dishonest in her defense of Trump that Morgan feels the need to call that out as well. Pretty bad. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.